So for the last couple of years, we've been invited to smaller markets throughout the United States, and we've shot in New Orleans, Louisiana, as well as Las Vegas, and next year we're going to be shooting in Atlanta. And when we're out there, a lot of these kids are asking me kind of questions about how to break into the entertainment industry here in LA. They're thinking about taking the move and pulling the trigger and dreaming a little bigger. And so we thought that we'd do a series of videos that will outline all of the steps you need to take in order to make it in the entertainment industry in Los Angeles. The very first thing you need is a headshot and a resume. The resume thing is pretty straightforward. You can do it yourself. There's a lot of examples online of how you need to put together a professional resume for TV and film work. Don't lie, never lie. That's #1 rule. You will be found out and it's embarrassing and you look pretty unprofessional, so don't lie. And the other thing that you absolutely need is a headshot. And that's where we come in, we take headshots. But frankly, you don't need to spend a lot of money on your first headshots. I'm not making these videos so that you'll come to me. If I am not your right choice, don't come to me. Come to somebody that you click with, somebody that is within your budget. But the most important thing is not how much you spend, it's how they look. They need to look professional. There are 3 things and 3 components that casting directors see when they're looking at a headshot. And obviously, the #1 thing is how you look, what type of person you are. And if you're not sure about your look, start looking at film and television and see where you might fit in. Frankly, if you're a little overweight and you want to trim down before your headshots. If you want to get into shape before your headshots. If there's anything, physically, if you're going to fix your teeth before your headshots. Another thing that a professional headshot will tell the casting director is what type of performer you are. If you're a serious actor, that should be reflected in your photos. If you're a commercial actor, that should be reflected in your photos. If you're a comedic actor, that should somehow be present in your photos. We should get a sense of your talents and your abilities in your photos. So again, you don't want to cheap out on this too much. A budget is fine. You can do this less expensively, but they need to be shot professionally, and someone who is a professional photographer is going to be able to pull this out of you. The third thing is that casting directors will see what type of business person you are. And if the quality of the photo isn't there, if the lighting isn't there, if your personality isn't shining through in your photos, if it's a mediocre headshot, as a casting director, if I look at that, I'm getting a sense that you're a mediocre business person. And you only get one chance to make that first impression. So you really want to be presenting yourself as someone who is already working, someone who is a professional, someone who can keep up with the other professionals that are also being cast in that TV and film program. Our next step is the question that I get probably the most from out-of-town actors, and that is, how do I get an agent or a manager? I think that a lot of actors make the mistake of thinking that the best or only way to obtain an agent or a manager is through blind submissions. Every now and then that might work. You might be a specific type and the agency might be looking for that specific type, and you come across their desk and eureka, the stars have aligned and you found the perfect fit. But in general, the agencies and the managers that we work with aren't really wild about blind submissions. They're constantly inundated with actors who are looking for them to give them something or give them a career. And I think a much more strategic way to obtain an agent would be to, figure out a way to put you and your work in front of them and inspire them to want to work with you, as opposed to coming to them from a position of weakness where you're saying, please represent me. Oh, I really want to be in your agency. Any agency, I don't care which one. You're literally coming from a position of power and saying, look, I'm a professional, this is what I do, I'm talented, you can see that in my work. Now, which one of y'all want to represent me? The best way to actually obtain an agent or a manager is to have them want to represent you because they've seen your work. If you're fortunate enough to be in a film or a play where they've seen your work and they get excited about who you are as a performer, that's fantastic. You've got agencies coming after you left and right. But if you're new to the industry, the best way to do it, I think, is maybe to enroll in some sort of class, some sort of scene study class, or maybe a commercial workshop, or an on-camera technique class. If you sign up for one of these classes, and there's tons of reputable, really amazing classes here in Los Angeles, and a lot of them sometimes have agency nights where they invite agents and managers to view a showcase of their students' work. Or they'll sometimes put taped auditions on a website and then actually invite agents and managers to look at the tape auditions on the website. But in this situation, if you're able to do this, there's a couple things that's happened. Certainly you're going to be able to get a really, great experience from the class itself and actually learn something that will help you move forward in the industry. And in turn, the agency knows that. And so they're going to be willing to go to these agency showcases because they know in a reputable class you've actually learned something that's going to help your career. They'll come to the classes, they'll look at you, and if you're one of the talented ones, if you're rising to the top, they're going to be excited about the potential of working with you. And there's also this other layer where there's a ticking clock, and there's other agencies and managers that have also seen either the same tape or the same evening of performances, and they're feeling like, ooh, they need to get in on this commodity before one of these other agencies or managers pounce. And so you might actually be in a situation where there's several agencies or managers who are wanting to work with you, and you get to make the choice. You are in the position of power to actually choose which one of these people is going to help realize your dream as an actor in Los Angeles. And now we can move on to branding. This is something that you really need to talk with your agent and manager about. You need to figure out how you are going to be perceived when your photo and your resume comes across a casting director's desk. Branding is really, really important, and I think you need to really think about that and not underestimate its power. Branding is not just what you look like, but it's who you could be in the entertainment industry. There's actually lots of classes in town that kind of specialize in what is your brand and how are you perceived. I actually shot this one girl right after she had finished one of these classes, and it was kind of sweet. She had always looked at herself as the lovable best friend, and she had taken headshots in the past of the lovable best friend. She took one of these classes, and much to her chagrin, the instructor, as well as many of the people in the class, kind of all agreed that she was perfect to play the role of the antagonist, as the person who is out to get the hero, as the mean girl. So it was actually kind of the exact opposite of how she perceived herself. And so after talking with her agent and manager, she decided to actually take some photos that might bank on this idea that she's more of a mean girl and less of a best friend. And sure enough, now she's booking lots of roles where she's seen as the antagonist, as the mean girl. But it required, an actual conversation and a little introspection to kind of get her branding on point. And there was this other guy who I've shot several times over the years, and I started shooting him in his 20s. As he got older, he was kind of holding on to the idea that his category was still young 20s leading man. And so he started to go gray, but he kind of kept his hair dyed, and he would always stay in really peak physical condition. And he ended up, having a heart-to-heart with his agent, who just blatantly told him, like, you're not this young guy anymore. Like, maybe it's time to kind of transition into being the youngest of the older set of dads. Sure enough, he went ahead and let his hair grow out. He has this beautiful salt and pepper hair, and he started booking work as that young dad that everybody wants to be, as opposed to, trying to fit into the younger 20-somethings that he just wasn't a part of anymore. If you are going to rebrand yourself, or if your agent or manager sees you as a different brand and kind of wants you to play around with the idea of expanding how you're approaching the industry, you absolutely need to go out and get marketing materials and headshots that represent what that brand is. Otherwise, it's just your agent on the phone saying, I know this headshot looks this way, but really this is how he is. No, you need to represent who you are. Get some new headshots. And it's not biting the bullet. I mean, this is a part of what you're doing as your career. You need to constantly be keeping up with, making sure that your marketing materials look like the way you want to brand yourself as an actor. You shouldn't look at this as a sacrifice of like, oh no, I've got to take more pictures. You get to take more pictures. This is what you want to do with your life. You want to be in front of the camera. So look at this as an opportunity to, better yourself as a performer. Look at this as an opportunity to, take one more step in the direction of becoming a professional working actor. So yeah, I think it's really important that, you have these conversations. You let your ego go. It's easy to let your ego get in the way of a serious conversation about how you fit into the entertainment industry. But if you can get with someone you trust, and usually that's your agent or your manager, and you can figure out who you are, not just what you look like, but who you are and what types of roles you can play, and you get your branding on point, then you're really set up for success. After you've gotten yourself branded, after you know how you want to present yourself to the entertainment industry, it's really important that you take those branding materials and those marketing materials and put them online in several different places. imdb.com, actorsaccess.com, and lacasting.com are the three major ones, because those websites are the websites that your agency will use to help procure work in the industry. The agencies are privy to a special set of basically job descriptions that are currently being cast in Hollywood, and then for each one of those jobs, they pull different profiles of the people that they represent. Hopefully yours is one of those. And they put them into a packet and they send those off to the casting director. The casting director opens the packet. They're able to go through your materials, see your headshots, see your resume, see any video clips that you might have, any of your most recent work. First of all, sign up for IMDb. Everybody that has been attached to any television or film project is on IMDb. You need to be one of those people. So sign up. Put your most recent credits, put your latest headshot up there. Something you might also want to consider is when you're signing up, maybe you want to sign up for IMDb Pro, meaning professional. As a professional user of IMDb, you are granted a whole other level of access, which includes agency contacts, casting director, emails, their mailing address, ways to contact industry professionals, their phone numbers, obviously. So you want to be able to navigate through the industry easily, and having an IMDb Pro account all of a sudden gives you access to a lot more information that you wouldn't have otherwise. You want to be part of Actors Access, and you also want to be a part of LA Casting. You want to sign up for online profiles in both of those, Actors Access and LA Casting. LA Casting is more of the commercial submission service that helps agencies find you work in either professional commercials or online commercials, national spots. Actors Access is a little bit more on the theatrical side of things, where they have breakdown services that give you information on what is currently being cast in feature films, in network television, in the new media with streaming services such as Amazon or Hulu or Netflix. So if you're going to be working in the television and film industry, you really need to have profiles on both of these websites. And then your commercial or your theatrical agent will use your profile and submit your profile to casting directors as they see submissions for film and television roles coming down the pike. Another great thing about these websites is that you don't necessarily need to have representation to be on them. You can sign up for LA Casting or to Actors Access, and you can sign up for email notifications, and based on your profile and what you've filled out when you've signed up, they will send you casting notices that will fit your type. So you can self-submit and maybe procure work on your own. That's why it's always really important to update all of your materials so that you have the most current stuff online, you have the most effective marketing tools that will help you sell yourself to the casting directors in the agency. Now it's time to start auditioning. And with any luck, the audition is what's going to get you work. It's the last step in the process to getting your jobs in Hollywood. So auditions, how to be successful. Be prepared. That's number one. Be professional. That's number two. And finally, just be present. You must be present to win. The first thing, just preparedness. When you get that call from your agent saying that you have an audition, you need to prepare for that audition. And there's a lot of different ways that you prepare. The number one way, obviously, is to actually work on the sides. So if you can get the sides to the audition as quickly as possible, that gets it into your head sooner, and you're able to kind of, process it and ruminate through the scene for a longer period of time before the actual audition. So try to get your sides as quickly as possible. Second, when you're preparing for the audition, you need to think about the choices that you're going to make, the objectives that you're being asked to play in these scenes. If you have a regular scene study class or an acting coach that you see, this might be a good time to give them a call and talk through the scene with them. Do everything you can just to kind of get your actor wheels in motion and actually prepare to show what you can do with a scene in a limited amount of time. So be prepared. The second thing that you want to think about besides preparedness is you want to be professional. This may sound kind of silly, but simple things like showing up on time and being respectful to the auditioners, and not making a lot of noise when you're in the waiting room and not being a distraction. All of those things kind of tally up and make you look like you're already a professional working actor. If you're scattered, or if you're somehow annoying, or if you're late, all of those things kind of count against you. So you want to make sure that you're presenting yourself in a professional way. The final thing that we want to talk about is maybe the hardest, and it's just being present. You want to be present when you're auditioning. You want to be present in those moments. And it's Zen philosophy, but it really is probably the one thing that kind of makes or breaks an audition. When you're present, you're just going to be creatively accessible. And being present isn't just about like, oh, I showed up, I'm here at the audition. It's about really being in that moment. When you're speaking with the casting director, is your mind kind of rattling like, oh, this is the most important job I've ever auditioned for, oh, I've got to make this happen, or oh gosh, did I put enough money in the parking meter? None of that matters. If it's not taking place in the room at that moment, it doesn't matter. You need to actually have a conversation that is intelligent and shows your personality. Besides being present with the casting director and having a present conversation, you also want to be present in your actual audition. The key to being a great actor is being in the moment and letting the audience see what is unfolding in your mind. And if you're present, you can do that in a much more effective way. If you have a reader that's a good reader, that should be an easy thing to do because you can kind of play with the reader and be present with the reader. If your reader isn't a very good reader, or isn't giving you much, you can still be present in letting your emotions happen organically in that moment. So really try to be present, try to leave the past and the future out of the mix and be centered, and that's going to hopefully create the magic that is going to book you that job. So now once you've gotten all of the legs of the table set, what is the next step? How do you proceed to, take yourself to the next level in your career? Remember, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And once you've moved to LA, and once you've made that commitment, and once you've decided, I'm pursuing a career in acting, then start piecing together the career. You've put all your pieces in place, your agency is getting you auditions, but what do you do in the meantime? I think it's different for everybody. You talk to any successful actor in town and every single one of them will have a different path that took them to where they are now. If you can afford it, try to be in class as much as possible so that you're refining your craft. If you can't afford class, maybe you get together a couple times a month with friends and just read over sides that you've auditioned with this month, or read through plays. If you're just cutting your teeth for the first time, you might want to think about ways you can just get on set so you can see how things are done. Become an extra. Maybe it's not a path that you take for years and years, but maybe it's a path that you take for a few months so that you can get your feet wet and see how a production is put together. And you'll get paid for it too. Maybe you want to do student films. Maybe you want to get together with friends who are filmmakers and film your own content. Maybe you want to do a web series. Maybe one of those things will blow up and, that's what you become famous for. It's so important that you continue to do, not just dream. Everybody can say, oh, one of these days I'm gonna get that call, but you've got to put the work in order to get that call. And you've got to expand yourself so that, you're constantly putting out new and exciting energy. And that's what's going to get you noticed. If you just kind of stay silent, cross your fingers and hope, you might be waiting quite a while. So get out there, do some work, enjoy your work, and hopefully the fruits of your labor will pay off.